Hello, everybody. My name is Bloppy, and welcome to the first episode of the Losers Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Cryst4l. Cryst4l, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Um, Hello, I'm Crystal. I'm I'm pretty average dude. I'm 16. I'm a sophomore in high school. I don't have a ton of hobbies. I write a little bit. I produce a little bit of music. I mean, it's not good music, but it's music. But um, yeah, and I'm just your average dude. So that's really all you need to know about me.
Thanks for that amazing description of yourself. You gave yourself so much credit there.
I know.
uh,
Maybe I should get off my high horse, but
you call that a high horse, yeah? Oh man. Alright. Well, thanks for that wonderful description of yourself. Um, there's not really much else to say with past that introduction. So, I mean, let's just get right into things with today's topic, which is going to be about movie sequels. Um, well, let's just open with personally, I'm completely split on sequels. Um, Sometimes they can be like absolutely amazing, but other times they just are so bad that they shouldn't have been made in the first place.
yeah, I agree. Um, Really, what the problem is every now and then, this is especially the case nowadays, because I think any movie that comes out, sequel or not, is just like garbage now. But so the same problem with movies now can be applied to sequels, kind of in the past. But so what it is I think every now and then you'll get a group of really creative and hardworking people, and they'll put together like a masterpiece of a movie. And the movie, um, rightfully so, will generate a lot of money. And so the studio sees that, and they're like, it's sequel time, and so it's because the more money, the better. And so they'll just throw together a movie without as much thought or effort as the first movie had. What made it so special and what made the movie work, and you're just left with a mess of just incoherent ideas and just unnecessary. That's pretty much what most sequels are. I think, are just unnecessary cash grabs from the studio.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of sequels like that we could talk about. There's so many companies that do sequels to movies that are just looking for money. There is one that I can mention straight away, which I don't really want to talk about, but it's Illumination behind Despicable Me series.
Oh, jeez. There's another one coming out, by the way. I
Really,
don't know if you heard about
really,
that.
I really
Yeah, there's a.
hope not. No.
I think it's coming out this year too. It's like Rise of Gru or something.
Oh
I think is what it's called.
no! What the hell?
I know.
Why?
I went and watched the Sonic movie. That's already bad enough. But and then I saw a poster, and it was just like Minions: Rise of Gru. Just, oh no, here we go again.
One thing I want to ask: Sonic movie, is it worse than the Emoji movie?
Oh no, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Nothing is as bad as the Emoji Movie. Well, the Sonic movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I thought it was going to be way worse. It was really generic, and it wouldn't have the same feel if you like. It was pretty much your typical kids movie. I think if you were to replace Sonic and the Sonic characters with any random character, but they still have the same personality, it would not be as special as it is. The only reason the movie is special is because it's a Sonic movie. That's pretty much it.
I mean, in all honesty, I think if they were going to make a Sonic movie, they would have done it in the whole animated style. It would have been so much better.
I
Like
agree. Like
Sonic should never be live action. Like that's just never.
no, definitely not. I and like, okay. Do you remember the first cut scene in like Sonic Lost World?
Yeah, yeah, I do recall that.
That was beautiful. Why can't we get an entire movie animated like that? If you're gonna put all this money into the stupid live action one, why not put it into animating it completely pre-rendered CGI? I don't understand that.
Well, I think personally why that is because obviously it costs a lot more money to make like a good animated movie than it does to make a
Right,
live action. So obviously, I think maybe they weren't sure about what money they could make from it, so they wanted just to test the waters with a live action.
right. But I will say though, I will say they were willing to put so much money into the project that they completely reanimated every scene that had Sonic in it. So I just want to point that out.
I mean, I don't think we really need to say much about what Sonic used to look like.
Yeah, I
It's
think
really
I
bad.
think the internet spoke for itself.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if they actually redid
Ooh.
Sonic because of like peer, well, not really peer pressure, but it's like from the whole disregard of the community that just completely hated on the original
Oh
Sonic
yeah,
look.
without a doubt, they saw that and they were like, "Man, apparently we messed up. We gotta change this." Which I'm glad I can commend them for that. But even in my opinion, if they saved Sonic's design, they made him look like Sonic. Um, it was gonna be a garbage movie either way. I mean, I can already tell. But
Yeah, the choice of live action really didn't help at all.
no,
It could have been
it
so
did
good
not.
as well. I mean, you know, having a movie with like Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and all that would be really good if it was just animated
That would have been
instead of being
so
live action.
awesome. I know.
Um,
Why did they have to go the live action route?
I have no idea. There's too many live action remakes, but I do actually want to talk about that later on. But
Right,
back onto the topic of like just sequels as a whole, I think what I hate most about movie sequels is just like the general hype that gets generated around a long awaited sequel because people often get disappointed if it's like not better than the original, which in my
right,
opinion is like the completely wrong way to look at things because sequels don't need to be better than the original, but I do believe they need to be good. Otherwise, like all the hype is just gonna get like completely bombarded onto the reviews if the movie's not good.
right. And I think that's something else that people need to take into account is you when you have a movie and it's pretty unique and or original and it's well written, and I think when a sequel comes along, people expect the same feel they got from watching the first movie in the second movie. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get the same influence. Like I don't. Jaws is a good example. Jaws when it first came out, the movie, it was incredibly influential. And it made people afraid to go into the ocean. It made people afraid of the ocean, and um, some people will even argue that that it was influential in a bad way because it generated all this fear about sharks, and sharks were unnecessarily killed just out of fear to the point where Peter Benchley, the guy who wrote the book and did screenplay for the movie, he came out multiple times. It was like, hey, sharks really aren't that bad. It was just for a story. Oh, sorry, I kind of got off to a tangent, but like Jaws 2, you're not going to get the same feeling or the same amount of influence that you got from the first movie, because like all the second movie can really do is make you scared to go back into the water. It's not going to have the same amount of influence because the movie already did that. The movie already established the characters, the world. It already built on some of the world. The plot. What a sequel needs to do is not recreate the essence of the first movie per se, but have the same theme and build on the characters and the world and have a necessary plot, especially build the characters because a movie is only like what typically an hour and 30 minutes, something like that, 2 hours. Um, that's not a lot of time to really build your characters, especially if you have a lot of them. It's easier to do that on a series because you have way more time. But on a movie, you don't have as much time. So the second movie is just if there's a sequel or multiple sequels, is the perfect opportunity to build your world and build your characters, flesh them out. And I think you need to have a necessary plot. Like some movies will end and they'll have a satisfying ending where you don't really need any more story, and then the studio will just come up and try to do a sequel, and just kind of throw together some ideas and it just not be as coherent or well thought out as the first movie was. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I think people just get so stuck up on the fact that they want it to feel like the original and they want it to
right.
bring back that nostalgia that was once there. Like, people obviously they always wanted a sequel, but when the sequel actually comes out, they go into it just thinking the wrong things and expecting the wrong things. Because I mean, not all sequels are bad. It's just,
Oh yeah, definitely not.
yeah, I mean, everyone just goes into it with the wrong mindset. They want the sequel to take them back to when they were young, and I mean that's just not right. I mean, it's not the way to look about things at all.
And I agree. And Jaws 2 is like once again another perfect example because Jaws 1 had a really simple plot. It was a shark terrorizes a town and eats people. Some dudes have to go out and kill the shark. If you're going to make a sequel to that, there's really nothing else you can do but do the same thing over again with some different circumstances. And that's what the second movie did. So I think in that regard, it's a great sequel. I think Jaws 2 is a great sequel to Jaws, even if it didn't really live up to the, I guess, influence and maybe the um, unique, not uniqueness, but the fondness of the first movie. I still think it was a good sequel. And then the third and fourth one, we don't even talk about that.
I mean, embarrassing. Like secret of mine. I've never watched Jaws. Um, or Jaws
Really,
2. No, I've never watched Jaws. I don't watch horror movies. I think that's one place.
Jaws isn't Jaws isn't
Well,
really a horror movie though,
I
per
think
se.
I haven't really watched too many classic movies. I mean, I've watched a few classic horrors like Nightmare on Elm Street and like the old Halloweens as well, Friday the
Right.
13th too as well. Um, but
Well, if you ever have the opportunity to watch Jaws, do it. It's an amazing movie.
no, I'm assuming you mean just the original and not the third and
Just
fourth, as
the
you say.
yeah. If you want to watch the second one too, do that, but don't move on to the third and fourth one. Oh,
Is
do you know
Jaws?
anything about the fourth one? Actually,
No, actually, I was just about to ask: is Jaws just like one of those movies that just try to ride the sequel train to make money?
without a doubt, that's all what was in Universal's head when they made those movies was money. Do you want to hear the plot of the fourth movie?
I mean, thinking about it, what could you actually do with just a shark that kills people as a plot? Like, I
Oh,
I, I
it
think
gets really bad. Trust me.
one
The
movie is
movie.
enough. Like,
Oh, I agree, but the fourth movie is about the the guy who killed the shark in the first movie. He's dead in this movie, and his wife um move or go. Okay, I'll backtrack some more. So the dad is dead in this movie, and the widow wife, her son gets eaten by a shark, and she's like just so overcome with grief. And so her other son, who lives in the Bahamas and is a marine biologist, is like, "Why don't you come stay with us for the holidays? Because it takes place like around Christmas." So she flies out to the Bahamas with her other son. Sorry, to spend Christmas with them, and the shark follows them from New York or wherever it is, somewhere around New York. Follows them from New York to the Bahamas because the shark wants to exact revenge on the Brody family, which is the dude that killed the shark in the first movie. Not even making that up at all. That is the plot. It's called Jaws the Revenge.
Oh
And the tagline to
no.
the movie was "This time it's personal." So terrible.
That is
Who thought that
yikes,
was a good
man.
idea?
That
No
like
joke. It is one of the few movies on Rotten Tomatoes that has a 0%.
zero.
Yes.
Zero. Oh god.
I
Oh
know.
man. I wonder what they were thinking, like when they passed
I
this movie
looked at
off.
that and was like, "This is a good idea."
Like, could you just imagine, like, the lead writers or whatever coming in with the script, and the director's just like, "Yeah, this is fine. This is a good movie," and they make Jaws the Revenge.
Oh, this is gonna be great. Maybe they were trying to make it so bad that people would go out and watch it because of how bad it was, and they would
Oh
make
my
even more
god,
money.
the
In
story of
which
the
case, it's
Emoji
actually
Movie.
genius.
That is terrible. Um, yeah, I mean that's really all we've got to say about just sequels in general, right? Anything else you want to add?
No, that's about all I have for sequels that already exist.
All
But
right, now we have the next exciting question, very exciting question that I'm sure you probably have a lot of things to talk about.
oh,
What
definitely.
sequels would you want to see in the future?
Um, well, Nightmare on Elm Street is what comes to mind first because I'm a big slasher movie and horror fan. Nightmare on Elm Street specifically, and Halloween, Friday the 13th, all those classics. Um, but with Nightmare on Elm Street, what I really feel like is, first movie was really good. Of course, the Wes Craven movie was really good, and then you. There was a couple other good movies sprinkled in there, but most of it is just really bleh. Could be better. Um, and I think just the influence that Nightmare on Elm Street had just on the world, like it made people afraid to sleep. Like that's insane. Um, I think the influence it had is just really it is like um I guess what I'm trying to say is with that it fell kind of out of the mainstream, and I feel like the sequels doesn't or don't do the original justice, and I feel like they really could because like I said earlier, there's a couple good movies in there, a couple of good sequels that really kind of do live up to the first movie. And I think, especially with ending it on a pretty low note, because the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie we had was 10 years ago in 2010 with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which was less than stellar in my opinion. It wasn't absolutely terrible, but it was not great. And the actor that plays Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, he's he's getting up there in age now. He was I forgot. I think he was like 30 when they filmed um, Nightmare on Elm Street in 1985, and that was 35 years ago, something like that. No more than that. It was like somewhere around there, 30, 40 years ago, and and he said on an interview a couple years ago that he maybe has like one more Nightmare on Elm Street movie left in him, and with Halloween, that new Halloween remake that came out in 2018, I'm still waiting to see if other slasher films will follow suit and will come out with a sequel, uh, like nowadays. And I feel like if Nightmare on Elm Street came out with a sequel that was well crafted, well written, made sense, wasn't stupid and cheesy like some of its 80s, 90s uh, movies that came before it, I really feel like it could rejuvenate the franchise as a whole and bring it back into the mainstream, which is what I would love to see for Nightmare on Elm Street. Since I feel like it was kind of given an unfair hand with all the cash grabbing from New Line Cinema. But yeah,
I mean, from everything you just said, I pretty much agree with everything there. I mean, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I actually really did like the original, and I've always wanted more Freddy Krueger movies. There is one question I do have for you though, and
Hmm.
that's to do with I'm not sure if you've watched this movie, but I'm pretty sure there was like a 2012 or 2013 movie called Freddy Krueger or Freddy or something. Have you ever heard of that
Uh,
or watched that?
no, I've not heard of that. What's it about?
I have no idea what it's actually about, but I just really wanted to know whether you've seen that movie because based upon what I read about it at least, it's like a terrible movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of reviews were just saying like, what a way to ruin Freddy's legacy.
Right,
Um, so I mean, I was gonna watch it myself because it's on Netflix, but uh, I mean, with after reading all those reviews, I just really didn't want to watch it in all honesty. Um,
right.
but I would definitely want more Elm Street movies, but I think they would probably need to find someone different to play Freddy, and I'm not really sure if anyone could really capture what the original actor could do with Freddy.
Yeah, I agreed. I think Robert England just he was just made to be Freddy Krueger, dude. Like no one can really quite do it like him. Like who's the guy that played him in the 2010? Jackie Earl Haley, I think, is the guy that played him in the 2010 remake. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's him though.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I mean, he does good, I guess, in his own way. It's a new spin on Freddy, which I guess is kind of what they wanted for a remake, but I just miss the whole kind of clown attitude that Freddy had, just kind of having his dark sense of humor where he thinks it's funny to kill off children, and just cracking his even with the stupid one liners, stupid cheesy one liners he gives off one time or sometimes, that's vintage Freddy right there, and I feel like no one can really capture that essence quite like Robert England can. And since he's getting up there in age, he's still physically fit. He's like mid 80s or whatever, early 80s. Um, it'd be good to utilize him now for one, especially if money is New Line Cinema's best interest. But you know, whatever. But I would love to see another Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Nightmare on Elm Street was definitely a good horror movie. I think what I like most about it personally is actually the whole idea behind Freddy, and mainly his ability of dragging someone into a dream world. I think like that's
Right,
so like unique compared to like what we had at the time, like just generic stabby killers like Jason and
right,
Michael Myers. Those were kind of just like Michael Myers grab a knife, stab, and Jason just grab a machete, go to campsite, stab. But with
right.
Freddy, he had like I think Freddy definitely like brung creativity to the horror scene.
Another thing Freddy that sets Freddy apart is first off his unique weapon. He doesn't use just like typical knife or just machete. He has his own signature weapon, and there's also the fact that he can talk too. A lot of slasher villains from that era were just silent, and just didn't talk. But Freddy, we see him talk all the time.
Yeah,
Sometimes not to his benefit, but
yeah. I mean that was actually something that you said that actually really interested me because I never really thought about it before. You're completely right. So many like well, would I say villains? I guess slasher villains, like just slash and kill villains from old era times was just they didn't talk. Like,
right.
I mean, I think it really does suit a character like Michael Myers, though. Maybe not so much
Yeah,
Jason, but Michael Myers definitely, like, the no talking definitely suits him, in my opinion, at least.
right.
I think that actually adds like a bit more like eeriness and creepiness to Michael as a whole. I mean, I don't know if you actually watched the 2018 Halloween. I think it's 2018. I'm pretty sure.
I wouldn't watch it, but I only watched it once in theaters, so I remember a little bit of it, but I'd have to rewatch it again to completely refresh my
Yeah,
memory
yeah.
on it. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, as I was saying. just Michael Myers' inability to talk is what gives him his creepiness. For me, it's not the way he kills, it's not the way. Actually, I guess it is kind of partly the way he walks around, where he just slowly walks and just passes people by and doesn't give a fuck. And
Right.
then next scene, he's picking up a machete or already got his machete and like killing anyone that he sees. Or like it almost seems like he picks his victims like very carefully, which is weird because in the 2018 Halloween it looked exactly like that, where there was a scene I think when he had just broke out of the asylum, or no, it was broke out of a prison bus I think that was transferring him somewhere. He then uh got his mask back by killing these two reporters which had it, and after that then he randomly like walks up onto a street on I think Halloween day and then goes into a garage and picks up a knife, just a random machete or a mallet. I think it was actually a hammer, and then he killed this old lady to get a machete.
So with Jason, I feel like it doesn't fit Jason as well because Jason is like, um, when they started with Jason, they kind of went with more of a, he's a scary dude. But as the series went on, it kind of started to be more like tragedy because we found out about his backstory. How he was a severely disabled kid that was bullied and drowned because nobody was paying attention. Um, and it kind of it goes into where you kind of feel bad for Jason and um, given that his mother was killed in the I should probably put like a safe spoiler alert, but his mother was killed. And we should probably do that in the title or something,
Yeah,
but
that's definitely going in the
um,
description, 100%.
but his mom was killed in the first movie, and she was just trying to exact revenge. And so when Jason comes back, he's trying to get revenge on his mom. So he's not really doing it because he's evil. He's just doing it because I guess he's trying to teach these kids a lesson, and so, but so I think to add to the whole tragedy of Jason, and I guess even a little bit of creepiness, is maybe give him like a very limited vocabulary like a child would have,
Yeah,
or someone that was like disabled like he was, It's just a very limited vocabulary and kind of a straightforward, simple way of thinking, which we kind of see that with Jason. He has a very straightforward mind. Like a particular moment that comes to mind is Freddy versus Jason, where Freddy cuts his fingers off and he just looks at his fingers like, huh, well, those aren't there anymore. Like, oh man, he cut my fingers off. It's not like he has a really. There's a lot of moments like that in Prey versus Jason, but he has a pretty straightforward way of thinking, which I feel like they um, captivated pretty well. But I think the limited vocabulary could really present that even more. That he has a really simple and straightforward way of thinking. But yeah, I think for the silence for Michael definitely fits him.
yeah, I mean, I completely agree. The silence fits for the most part. Apart from what you said, maybe giving him basic vocab would maybe push his character a bit forward. But I mean,
Right.
I don't really think we're going to see any more like Friday the 13th. I don't think, anyway. Um,
Uh, we might get a. I think we'll get another remake, and a couple years down the road, kind of like what happened with Halloween. I think we'll see that for Friday the 13th. Not 100% on Nightmare on Elm Street, but I have high hopes that that will happen.
oh, trust me, I have a few things to say about remakes, but obviously not right now. We'll get to that. I mean, personally, I'm not sure even what sequels like I would want. I mean, if I had to go with like movies I've seen in the past, like a Zootopia 2 would be really good. I watched an I Hate Everything video a while back on him describing what he hates about, I think it was a movie called Sing. He brings up a
Mm-hmm.
really good point, and it's as the people behind Zootopia, knew what they wanted to do with the movie, and the reason that they were animals really helps the movie because they had so many like funny side gags and things to do with the actual animals themselves. Um,
Right.
as for whether Zootopia needs a sequel, I mean, I think it kind of just ended on like a good note. You know, the movie was amazing and it doesn't really need a sequel. But I mean, I wouldn't really go against wanting one because I do want one. I think the
Right.
hype for Zootopia 2 would be unbelievable. Um, I think another movie that people would absolutely love a sequel for would be Inside Out because I think that really resonates with so many people, and I think that absolutely everybody would want a sequel to that movie. I mean,
Right.
personally, I really enjoyed it as well when I watched it. I think it came out in 2015, but both those movies are definitely what I would go for with sequels. But again, you kind of have to ask the question: it's like, do they really need sequels? And personally, I would say no. Neither of them need sequels. Both movies were good for what they were, and I think they should just remain standalone movies, and should be enjoyed that way. Personally, um, but obviously, it'd be nice to see a return from them.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think an Inside Out too would be really cool because, Inside Out, she was I forgot how old she was, like preteen, teenager, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it would be cool to see like a whole movie where she's an adult and she's more mature now, and we um, see her adult life now, and just all the things that come with adulting. I think a good example is like Toy Story 3, where Andy was a kid in the first movie, first and second movie, and then in the third movie, he's all grown up, he's going to college now. I think something similar to that would be pretty cool. Like we see her go to college, or we see her in the workforce now, having her own 9 to 5. But yeah, I think Inside Out would be a cool sequel. Zootopia 2 would be pretty cool. Also, I feel like there's not, I don't want to say there's no opportunity, but like there's not a lot of ways I can think to where it would be necessary. Like I would love to see one, but I feel like if we got one, it would just kind of be a bland rehashing of the first movie because they're just it ended on a pretty satisfying note. There's not really a whole lot of else they could do with it. I feel like, but yeah,
Yeah.